Galair, and welcome to the Loaf of Bread GAA podcast, slicing into the GAA of the past, present and future. Join me, Jason Keelan, as we cut into the largest loaf of bread known to mankind. On Slice 5 this week, I chat to the iconic talisman himself, Slaughtneil, Derry and former Sydney Swans star, Chrissy McKaigue. We chat all things hurling and football, the hunger and drive for success, the great Peter Canavan, and how he introduced my cousin to his shoulder in a league game against Longford. But first, as always, let's take a quick trip to our destination. Today our journey takes us from the lily white of Davy Burke's home county of Kildare along the N2. We then arrive to the banks of the majestic River Foyle in the county of Derry, Northern Ireland's second largest city. Debate over the history of the name Derry still remains. The original name was Dara Calgach, but who Calgach was remains a dispute. Was he a pagan? Was he someone linked to the Roman takeover of Britain? Or was Calgach simply a term meaning great warrior given to many? The Annals of Ulster in 1121 mention the name being changed to Dara Columkill in honour of St Columba, who founded a monastery there in 546 AD, aged just 25. It was King James I who introduced the name Londonderry. Today, Derry is Ireland's only remaining fully intact walled city, and the last walled city ever built in Europe, dating back to the early 17th century. Modern day Derry is perhaps most associated with the civil rights era in Irish and British history, commonly known as the Troubles. The bog site in Derry, on January 30th, 1972, still invokes memories of horror and disgust among people today, as 13 unarmed and innocent marchers were callously gunned down by British forces. Anyone visiting the joining of Lecky Road and Fahan Street will be familiar with the Free Derry mural, which still adorns today as a reminder of what many people in the city went through. Many great names hail from the Oak County, from the unmistakable tones of journalist Nell McCafferty to the unforgettable lines from Nobel Prize poet Seamus Heaney.
Sieged by anger, my mind a gap of danger. I walked among their old haunts, the home ground where they bled, and in the dirt lay justice like an acorn in the winter, till its oak would sprout in Derry, where the 13 men lay dead.
The legacies of politicians John Hume and Martin McGuinness, the sporting attributes of Martin O'Neill and James McLean, and the musical bravado of Phil Coulter, Neil Hannon and the Undertones. And of course the recent success of the comedy series Derry Girls has helped also. The city is an endless wash of talent, passion, creativity, history and culture. On the sporting side, Derry GAA club Balahi were the first club to win the All-Ireland Senior Football Championship who were not an amalgamation. This happened in 1971 after East Kerry had won previously. In 1958 the Oakmen county team took on Dublin in an All-Ireland final, only to be beaten by a goal by Johnny Joyce. As time progressed, so did Derry, and in 1992 they secured the National League title, which started a successful period for the men from the edge of Lough Neagh. The following year, Derry started off well, beating Down and Monaghan, before a low-scoring 8-6 win over Donegal led to the Ulster title. But Derry had never won the All-Ireland. But with Enda Gormley's 7 points against Dublin in the semi-final, the red and white of Derry dared to dream. And then the dream turned to reality less than a month later. With names like Gormley, Brawley, Tohill, McKeever, Cassidy, the side led by manager Eamon Coleman and captained by Lavy man Henry Downey, they completed the incredible. The county would take the league again in 95 and 96. Only inconsistency in Ulster was the reason they did not go on to achieve so much more as a group. In recent times, the GAA world has become aware of a townland just north of Mahara called Slaughtneil. In 1953, the Maroon and White GAA club was founded in the area in the name of Irish revolutionary figure Robert Emmet. 3 years after their inception, the club were junior football champions in Derry. Double intermediate league and championship in 82 would be the only major football title until the 2000s, and then the club went on a major run of Derry senior titles in 2014, 15, 16 and 17, with 3/4 of those titles also resulting in Ulster titles. On the small ball side, the club has grown from strength to strength, with an incredible unbeaten county streak going back to 2013, alongside the Camogie team's 4 in a row. Slaughtneil has established itself as one of the country's greats. Combine the titles from all codes in the club down to minor level, and you get a club who have over 50 titles in the last decade alone. That's more than many clubs have since 1884. To be honest, the Slaughtneil success story would need a book in itself. Chapters on Mickey Moran, the Bradleys, the Cassidys, the Mellons, the Grahams, but to name a few. And then there's Chrissy McKaigue, a man who plays both football and hurling, teaches, coaches, and all in between. A man who wears his heart on his sleeve regardless of whether it is the maroon and white of Slaughtneil, the red and white of Derry or even Sydney, or the green of the Irish international rules team. 17 titles in a 12-year career, with club and county to date at senior level across both codes. Chrissy would also spend time down under with the famed Sydney Swans alongside the likes of Irishmen Ty Kennelly and Adam Goods, before returning home to Derry and Slaughtneil to continue his commitment to his local side in both codes. But success didn't come easy for Robert Emmet Slaughtneil or Mickey Moran. As Chrissy says himself, it's a professional setup in all but name. And although every club probably feels they are in the same boat, there's just something special growing on the Derry oak that can't be bought. Let's meet Chrissy himself, a GAA icon, a committed warrior on the pitch, a teacher and a coach off it, a gentleman who speaks with honesty and passion in his voice. Chrissy, how's the form?
How's it going?
Not too bad.
Good, man.
Thanks very much for coming on.
No bother at all.
Probably not a huge amount to do within 5 kilometres down here anyway, so I don't know what it's like up there. But
it's a wee bit less detailed up here, but anyway, it's still the same obstacles nonetheless, you know.
Yeah, no, you're very good for coming on. I won't keep it too long anyway.
Not worrying about it, Grant.
I've just a few questions to throw out, and it's mostly just chat about the teammates, success, the loss, the crack, the nights out, you know yourself. I suppose the same question I've asked everyone who's on so far: who were your main influences growing up in the GAA?
So I suppose I couldn't really name one standout, one to be fair. I suppose just where the area that we are from and the traditions and histories that have existed around the area, naturally it was always going to be Gaelic games. Went to a primary school down the road. That would be in Glen Parish, and then obviously Glen would be a big rival of ourselves, Slaughtneil. So, not uncommon around our area that you would play for the family, I suppose, that you would be linked to as a club. Then naturally, St. Pat's Mahara would have been the next school, would have been steeped in a lot of good won traditions around Ulster College's football. Has won, I think, 5 All-Ireland senior boys titles too. Competed in a good few finals also. So they would have good stock there. Went there, spent a good 7 years there. And then obviously within that school, you had the likes of Adrian McGuckin, Sean Murray Lockhart, people like that would have had some sort of impact on you. And then coming from a club like we do, there's people within that would have been good mentors too. But I would be doing too many a disservice if I was to name one or two. I suppose at this stage of my career now, I'm kind of getting into that kind of mold now where you're looking at helping out the younger players coming through. In the school that I work now, Gael College at Dara, and given there's quite a few Slaughtneil kids that go there, so you're constantly thinking about how you can guide them, help them on the right path, because obviously they're madly fascinated with Gaelic games too.
Yeah, I suppose it was actually one of my last questions, but kind of since you sort of mentioned it, like a lot of the GAA community, but I've just noticed kind of going through social media and stuff for yourself, you're a big advocate on retweeting and mentioning helping out the community, mental health. Is it just a GAA thing that's ingrained in you, or is it?
Look, I think you've got to be looking out in a wider remit than just like GAA. Yeah. I think there's massive positives within the GAA, but I do think naturally there's many areas that come with the GAA being so big that it has definitely areas to work on, and I think you'd be very naive to think that it's all a pipe dream and everything's brilliant, and you know what I mean. So I'm always cautious of that, and I think when you look at the struggles of the modern day environment, you'd also be fairly naive to think that people don't have issues going on outside. And sometimes when we go to watch a county team on a Sunday, and the scrutiny's fierce and the pressure's big, that we sometimes, and people can't forget that the same group of players have to go out and go to their day's work the next day, and they're very much a very normal person in the community. Same goes with big club days. County finals in Derry, you could have anywhere up to 7,000, 8,000, 9,000 people at them, and the atmosphere is unbelievable, and it's just like a professional game. But the next day, one lose or draw, you're back in as a normal person again, and to me that takes a toll on a person. And sometimes people can put you on a pedestal as being something that you're not, or something that you don't want to be. You just find yourself in situations where you're in front of a big crowd, or you're playing in front of live TV or whatever it is. But I would always be aware of trying to keep people aware that most players, the vast majority of them, are just normal people, and they don't want to be seen in a different light, or they don't want to be seen in such a way that they're different than anyone else. And I think that's why a lot of the things that our clubs that I would go and talk to, or groups of people that I would talk to, I'd always try and get that across, that as a player you have a very limited shelf life, but you want to try and be different and not just come out with the generic cliches all the time. You want to stand for something, and you want to speak your mind, and that's always something that I've always tried to do.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant to hear. Yeah, I was going to say, kind of pick up on it since you said it. Been treated almost like a professional. Speaking of that, I suppose, been out in Australia. What was what was the crack like with Sydney?
Look, the thing about the lessons that I've learned is we do ourselves an unbelievable disservice in the GAA world. I think we put if you're labelled as a professional athlete or whatever else, you almost have people in the GAA world thinking, oh, geez, what was so different about over there, or how good were the players, or how fit and strong were the players. But elite GAA now, and we're even veering towards the top of the club kind of tree. The levels of fitness, athleticism, skill, tactics, preparation is at a professional level. Just because we don't have the tag of being professional doesn't mean that the skills and the preparation and the interest isn't at a professional level. And I suppose that's one thing I would always say now is be careful not to put professional athletes on a pedestal that we think that we're nowhere near. I'm not advocating for 1 second that the GAA go professional, but I would be very quick to dismiss any type of, I suppose, rumours that the GAA at the elite level is not very much operating at a professional level. Yeah. The players, how they're conditioned, how they live their lives, they are living like a professional athlete, and that's portrayed. Anybody that goes to watch an All-Ireland final in Football Ireland, are you trying to tell me that the levels aren't at that? So that's one thing about the Australia that I would say is the elite GAA players are every bit as good as the elite Australian professional athletes. But obviously, we're not professional by name. But I think we should be more proud of the levels that GAA has got to, and more. I know it's probably more astonishing that we have managed to do that whilst holding down full-time jobs. But again, it probably ties into how special the GAA is in terms of its ethos.
100%, yeah. And I suppose kind of keeping on that, there's a real kind of accessibility in some ways to GAA players. Was there much crack in some ways with the Australian lads, or is it very professional?
Look, there was, and it's no different than any team environment. Like teams are teams, and whether it's working as a team and your work capacity, or it's sporting, it doesn't really matter. There is that. There's people that you gravitate towards, and there's groups of boys that get on better than others, and there's cliques and all them things.
Yeah.
But like, I think we're always like these type of questions that you're asking me about my time in Australia are very, very similar to other ones before, because it's almost like there is that search for an answer of, the Australian sport's so much better than over here, and life's so much better over there, and they're doing so many things different. I think, we do ourselves a disservice, as I said before, far too often over here. The levels the GAA has gone to now, and the quality of coaching, and you see that just the facilities around the GAA world now, from the top of the country to the bottom of the country, we're doing a lot right at grassroots level, and we're doing a lot right as an organisation. It doesn't mean that I wouldn't be hugely frustrated with some of the things that go on and HQ at Croke Park, but they're in a very tricky position because they can't please everyone. But I know in the last couple of years, for example, especially in the last year and a half, I know Derry County Board with their new chairman Stephen Barker, and he's done a lot right. Kieran McKeever, who played in '93 as vice chairman, and the facilities and the organisation, and just all them things are starting to add up. And if you went to Owen Begg and Derry, or you went to Gervahi and Tyrone, or you went to Donegal, wherever, and you've seen their training facilities, you would say to yourself, it's professional and like all but name. You look at the GAA stadiums around the country and everything else. So the Australians have the luxury of being professional and obviously taking in more money because of that and different things. But I think as a GAA world and Ireland right now, we're doing pretty well.
Yeah. Who were the ones on the Sydney team you had the best crack with? Was there anyone in particular?
There's boys your age or whatever else, but Tag Kennelly was still there when I was there, so right, was friendly with him. But there was quite and there still is a fair amount of Irish boys over in Australia. So you'd always been in contact with them, but obviously being in Sydney and most of them being based in Melbourne, you're only maybe talking to them now and again, or phone or whatever else. But I suppose Tag was there. I suppose I had the added benefit when I was there. There's quite a few of boys from school that were knocking about now and again over on holidays or maybe working in Sydney, so I was never stuck. I have family in Sydney too. My dad's mum is married in Sydney and been living there for the last maybe 25, 30 years, something like that. So I had a connection to the place too, which helped, and that family type of connection. So it makes things a wee bit easier, but I suppose naturally, when I came home, you were thinking I should have stayed or maybe just, keep going at it or whatever else. But it's worked out well for me. It's worked out relatively well for me, and I have to be grateful for that, and still feel I have a bit more left to give. But I'm home now almost 10 years, so never in my wildest dreams did I think that I would be allowed to achieve a lot of the things that I've been allowed to achieve. But within my personality, obviously you want more, but sometimes you just got to take stock and be grateful for the good days, because there's been plenty of them,
Yeah, speaking of the good days, I suppose you're at a club which has over the past 10 years taken in more from all codes, has taken in more than 50 titles. Is that just testament to the improvements in everything, or?
Look, it's a mixture. It's a mixture of things. Like,
what does Mickey Moran put in the porridge up there? Or?
Well, Mickey Moran was unbelievable, and he created history with our group of players. But like from a hurling, perspective, obviously, hurling wouldn't be the first word out of people's mouths when they talk about Derry.
Yeah.
And Mickey McShane came in. We had won 2 county titles previous to it, but we were really just starting off as a relatively young team. But no Derry team had ever won an Ulster Club hurling championship, which is hard to believe when Derry, Antrim and Down are the 3 teams that will compete in Ulster for county and club honour. So that was amazing, and there was some really good Derry teams throughout the years that were beaten by Antrim teams and so on that went on to Ireland finals. But for us to win the Ulster title in 2016 as being the first Derry team ever was massive. Then to win a second one, to compete in 2 All-Ireland semi-finals, and then obviously to win it back the last campaign out. Can't even remember what year that was at this stage, but it was the last one played. And but I suppose, to be competitive now with Ireland's elite at hurling level has been an unbelievable achievement. Like, I just cannot say how much of an achievement it's been, because it hasn't been done through unbelievable funding from Croke Park, or it hasn't been done through some guru of an S&C coach coming in. It's been done with just unbelievable hard work, preparation, nurturing players from underage. Like, there's been absolutely no fairy tale to it, and the football's the same. It's been our same players that have bought in. Yes, we've a good management teams, but like, it's probably the best example of a sporting journey, because it's been up and down and up and down, and it's been what ifs, and we haven't got an All-Ireland title, and we're still trying to get, to that level again. But like, it's probably the perfect example for a kid growing up in GAA to see that, well, like, you can achieve things, but the fairy tale of it's all going to work out brilliantly, and it's all going to be smooth, and there's going to be no criticism or no scrutiny, and there's going to be no doubters. And like, that's just not the case for us anyway. And in many ways, it's more satisfying, because we won our county football title back last year again, last campaign out, after that was the first time we won it since Mickey Moore had left.
Yeah.
And that was unbelievably satisfying to win it again. And Derry club football is so competitive, and that's why their track record in Ulster's pretty decent also. But like, it's, as a club, we have a special group of players at the minute across the three codes, and the club does unbelievably well in terms of supporting these teams, and supporters are massively supportive. But like, every club could claim to be no different in Slaughtneil, and I would fully say that. But I think as a group at the minute, we have to be aware that we have an unbelievable special group of players in terms of the culture we've created, the behaviours, and the consistency, and that goes for the hurling, football, and camogie. But like, we're not going to be around forever. And there's going to come a day when another team will claim. But I suppose the motivation for us is, number one, to keep getting better, and secondly, how long can we hang on for?
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, I suppose in some ways you're kind of putting Ulster hurling back in the maps at the club level. If you look at the team of the year, the club team of the year, it's littered with your Ballyhale Shamrocks and your Borrisolees and all them, and then in midfield, yourself and Brendan Rodgers.
Yeah, I'd be always a big advocate that. I think one thing the GAA hasn't done well, and it's throughout its history, is if you're from a certain area in the country, or you're from a certain county, you're suddenly labelled, or you're suddenly labelled as being from a football county or a hurling county, or vice versa. Like, we should be going for a model that no matter where you're from in Ireland, you're going to have a chance to play elite level sport. And I think we're so far away from that at the minute, it's scary, and that's why it really annoys me when I hear stuff like tiered championships coming in, and we're talking about the elite in our competition, and we want to create a divide. Like, we should be creating a more even playing field in terms of resources, and in terms of making a more competitive competition. But I suppose that's one thing that motivates us as a club, is we have shown that from a hurling perspective, if you get your own house in order, you get the right management teams, you get the right backing, and you develop your own players, and you put in a consistent bout of effort, that you can compete. And we'll make no bones about it, whether we won another game in Derry Championship again or whatever else, our aim as a hurling club is to be competitive, and hopefully someday beat a Ballyhale if we get the opportunity again, because we feel that we have lots of room to get better, and we have absolutely no shortage on motivation. And from a hurling perspective in Ulster and in Derry, like, the county game has got nowhere near the same prestige at present as the club game.
True,
because we get to play Coola and a Pirsha, a Ballyhale, etc., because we've earned that right after winning Ulster, or Dunloy or Cushendall, or whoever won Ulster. And to us as a playing group, to me anyway, it's a massive incentive. I don't have the same motivation to go and play a tier 2 or tier 3 All Ireland for a county team. I have no problem with not winning or whatever else, but I do take great pride in going out and playing against the best teams, the best players. To me, that is success. And if you can win, then all the better. But I grew up playing for Slaughtneil and grew up playing for Derry, wanting to be the best I can, and that means playing the best competitions against the best players.
Yeah. Speaking of the county, I suppose, you made your debut and came on and scored a point. Did they allow you to come out? Did they allow you to come out of the half-back line, or did you make that decision yourself?
Jesus. I think my debut was in 2000 and I think it was maybe 8 or something like that. I was Paddy Crozier's last year, and I was still at school, and we got beat in an under 21 Ulster final that year.
That's right. Yeah.
I was still relatively young for that team, but anyway, Down beat us by a last minute goal. I think Sean Leo McGoldrick was maybe captain. He had a good career for Derry too. But anyway, Down, I was still one of the worst defeats because we had Down on the rack, and Down won the All Ireland at that same grade at minor or same age group.
Yeah.
So they had Paul McCominsky, Kevin McKernan, but it was a very Derry. We weren't expected to get there, but we were nip and tuck the whole game, and they scored a goal in the last minute. I think it was from a mistake from someone anyway, but it was a real heartbreaker. We kind of just sucked the life out of us. But then Paddy Crozier, who was manager of the 21s and the seniors, had called me up, and I never had really I was on the training panel. I never really had much hope of coming on. But in the qualifier game against Monaghan, I came on at half time actually. And I scored a point. And then the next year, Damien Cassidy was manager, played a full year, got beaten in the National League final by Kerry by a couple of points. And then I went to Australia. So I've been around Derry panels for quite a long time, and probably then missed about 2.5 years with being away. But look, I suppose now Gaelic football has changed so much, hasn't it? And
it really has.
Like, the landscape's changed so much. But look, I still have a massive appetite to play county football, and I would be reinvigorated by Rory Gallagher coming in and his backroom team, and Stephen Barker, the new chairman, and just the general feel around the county with underage success and clubs. Like, you should see the facilities around Derry at the minute for clubs. Like, it's just scary. Every club now's got like a second pitch and brilliant changing rooms and floodlights, and their teams are going really well, and the numbers playing Gaelic games within all the clubs in Derry is growing and growing and growing. And like, it's a really healthy county from a participation point of view. And like that's all down to the individual clubs and how they run their own affairs. Like, but it would do your heart good seeing it.
Yeah, I was up there. I don't know. As I said, I've lost track of what year it is, but I was up there. Yeah, the last time I was up there a couple of years ago. Yeah, it was nice driving around. I was kind of up there visiting and studying a bit of history and stuff for myself for a book as well. But yeah, you kind of get the sense that it's there's a lot been put into it, and it's all for the greater good.
It's probably only when you're up and you be like, if you're around it, you see that like Derry, the pockets of Derry and the clubs within Derry, the passion that exists for like predominantly Gaelic football, but Gaelic games in general is just unbelievable. Yeah. Like a couple of years ago there, you had St. Pat's Mahara playing St. Mary's Marafelt in the Macquarie Cup semi-final or something, Balahi. Like, there was something like 3,000 or 4,000 people at a college's semi-final game. Like, and
mad.
You see your club games, like the numbers that will go to it, and like the crowds that go to Derry club games is unbelievable, and even towards underage games is unreal too. So there's a serious passion for Gaelic games within Derry, their passion probably exceeds most other counties, but it desperately needs Derry to be more competitive than it has been the last while, and because ultimately a winning team gets bigger crowds than a team that's not doing so well.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, that up on the podcast page, I had a short video of you laying out, flattening my cousin, who was the Longford full forward on his debut season.
Oh, very good.
You've he kind of mentioned it, I suppose, because I have the Longford lads coming on tomorrow night. Kind of a strange rivalry with them in some ways. Like, there's several times they've beaten you, you've beaten them several times, 2006, 2012, 2020. Is Is there any kind of actual rivalry there, or is it just my cousin just trying to hype things up?
No, I don't think so. I think, it's like anything else. After spending last year in Division 4, and you start to see that no county player is that bad. In fact, quite the opposite. And it's got to the level now where every county team's fit and strong in Gaelic football. They're well organised, mostly, well conditioned, and it's become a very competitive landscape, bar maybe the top 5 teams, say for argument's sake, the 6th best team in the country to the 16th best team. On any given day, any one of them teams could beat each other.
Yep.
And the qualifiers have shown that. Now, without doing Longford a disservice, but they always seem to catch Derry at a very vulnerable state a lot of the time. But like, one thing you would always notice with Longford, even the times we've beaten them, is they always have 3 or 4 players that are clinking players. Like Longford can develop elite players like Mickey Quinn, Paul Barden, Brian Kavanagh, They always produce good players, and they have a couple of really good players at the minute too. So like, it's not as if Longford haven't been able to beat Derry or shouldn't be able to beat Derry. Longford have beaten Monaghan too, and they always seem to be, they're very competitive against Donegal. I remember one year in the qualifiers back in Ballybofey, they always can produce good players and probably should be in Division 2 on talent alone maybe. But like, definitely there was a stage there where people were nearly hoping they didn't get Longford because of the past things. But like, I would say Longford in some ways are like Derry is, if they were able to get their house in order a bit better, they would be more competitive and more consistent than they maybe are. Yeah. So there's probably very similar templates in some ways. But one thing that I've always noticed when we played Longford or analysed and whatever else, you're like sitting going like, there's 3 or 4 players here that need man marked or need a lot of like respect because they can hurt you. And like, I know a few people in Longford, and I know a few Derry natives in Longford too, and they would speak of the passion that exists within Longford football too, and the quality. St Mel's Longford, a very successful college team, aren't they too?
Yeah, that's right.
So like, success leaves clues, and I would always try and be well enough educated and versed on things like knowing that, because I would always be a huge advocate that irrespective of what county you're in, there's always talent, and there's always successful teams that have been there in the past, or that have potential in the future, and Longford's one of them for me.
Yeah, and they, I suppose, Mullinachta getting their Leinster success at the club as well probably came a little bit from inspiration from you guys as well. So,
look, they had a pretty good manager too, didn't they?
That's right. Yeah, there is a lot of good promising players in the county as well. So, I suppose this one might be slightly unfair question, but have you a favourite single game with Slaughtneil?
I've been asked that question a few times too, and look, I suppose you always think of the ones that maybe the whole nation has seen or more privy to, but there's 3 ones that stand out in my mind very, very clearly. The 2014 county final was my first county title after getting beat in my first 2 in 08 and 12. Okay. So like, that was forever an absolutely it wouldn't be great in terms of quality, but for us to get over the line, it was massive. Yeah. So that was one. The second one was won in the Ulster Club hurling title in 2016, having previously gotten beat the year before by Cushendall after extra time by a point. That was a massive one. And I suppose if you were going for a third one, it would have to be probably the game against St Vincent's, just because we won it. I had a reasonably good game. We got in the Ireland final.
That's an understatement now.
Well, but like, for us that year, whether we ever get another chance to play at that level again or else, but like, we were so well primed to win in Ireland that year. People talk about Corfin's dominance, and rightly so. Like, they smashed us in 15. We were nowhere near ready, and we had no reservations about that. But we were ready to win an All-Ireland title in 2017. We were ready. Crokes smashed Corfin in the semi-final. Yeah, people tend to forget that. Yeah. A 10, 11-point job. Yeah. Crokes were flying. And like, for us and the Crokes in the final, like, it was nip and tuck, and we were playing most of that game with 14 men, and probably one we left behind. 1-9 to 1-7. 1-7 is not going to win you too many games of football. But like, I felt that if we had kept going the way we were going the first 25 minutes, like, we would have had a massive chance to win that. And when you get to Ireland finals, you get to any final, you've got to make sure you won them, because they're damn hard to get to and they're damn hard to even win. So look, hopefully we can keep improving and give ourselves an opportunity to win another county title. And then usually for us, if we can get outside the county, which is usually the hardest thing, we can navigate our way not too bad after that. But like, we'd be fools to look beyond Derry. And this year again, our aim is to win football and hurling county titles and reclaim our crown again. That's always our aim. And I know people say that I have to say that, but honestly, within our group of players, that is our aim, because we know that we can get nipped on any given day. And the county titles for us are always very special ones to get back.
Yeah, that's it's kind of a recurring theme, I suppose. I had the 4 of the lads from the Up the Ard intermediate club winners on the other night, and I said to them, if the 4 of you made the Galway panel All Ireland final, would you give it up for the club medal? And it was a resounding not on your life. And it wasn't even just the game; it was the celebrations after the bonfire in Up the Ard, and they said you can't give up that kind of thing. Is it the same for you?
Yeah. Look, I would never have been a person that would compare county and club. I know, to me, they're two very separate entities for me. But I think the great thing about, I suppose, the publicity and TG Cahar doing the games, we've started to see now more than ever how special the club campaigns is. Like, it's a real jewel on the crown, like, isn't it?
It's unbelievable.
And the county competition is unbelievably special too. Like, I have no problems admitting that, and playing for your county, playing county level in general, is an unbelievable honour, and one that you should try and do for as long as you can. But like, that's what makes the GAA so special, is that we have the club campaigns that should be respected and should be pushed, and then we have the county that is so special too. And like, they're two very different fields of competitions,
completely,
but nonetheless, they're so special, and they should be cherished. And like, I had plenty of bad days with Derry, and like plenty of good days too. Like, mostly in the league, or getting big league ones, or the odd championship one. But nothing can replicate that level of sport that the county level offers you. Like, it's a hard level to play at, but it's unbelievably rewarding to have played in 2 Division 1 finals, to have played and won a Division 2 title, to won a Division 4 title last year. Obviously, like, people would maybe be dismissive of, but at the end of the day, for me, looking at it, is when you get to a final in Croke Park, irrespective of the level, you want to try to be winning it, because that can breed confidence and breed the habit of winning. But like, I would love to finish my Derry career being back in Division 1 again, because it may shock some people, but for most of my Derry career, it's been spent in 1 and a wee bit in 2. So it's only the last number of years that Derry have now found themselves, and obviously 4 last year, 3 this year. So like, it's, sport can be fickle, and some people, I'm glad to hear that you're into your history and looking through the record books, because better than most then that things can turn very quickly one way, and they can turn very quickly the other way, with the right leadership, the wrong leadership, the right cultures, the wrong cultures. So like, I'm always aware of that. So I'm sure it wasn't Eddie Howe, the Bournemouth manager, saying, but I can remember him one time saying last year, something like that, he says, it's important not to get too high with the highs or too low with the lows, because it's rarely ever either or. So, like, he's right. So like, stay grounded and, keep doing the right thing, and hopefully things get better.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I suppose on a personal level, who would be the toughest opponent you've ever come across?
Yeah. Well, it's throughout my Derry career, especially when I came home from Australia, I was always kind of tasked most of the time with marking the marquee forward or the marquee player as such. So I've marked quite a few of them.
Yep.
And like, naturally, when you mark the better players, there's going to be days where breaking even's success.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like there's no point in suggesting and things like some days you want hands down, other days you don't. But like to give a wee bit of variation, you know, I think like Michael Murphy, whoever's marked him on the edge of the square anywhere, he's going to give you he's going to give you a fierce battle.
Yeah.
I only marked Michael Quinlivan twice in a Sigerson Cup final in 2014, and then I marked him in a 2016 qualifier game. That was a bit of an epic game that they went to the
right. That year.
He got an All-Star that year, so he's probably at the peak of his powers. He was a really, really good player.
Yeah.
And you know, Matty Donnelly from Tyrone, Peter Hart from Tyrone are very good players too. So like you could go through the list, but like for them boys have probably stood the test of time, especially Peter Hart, Matty Donnelly and Michael Murphy. They're still playing. They're roughly the same age as me, and they're still every bit as good as they were, you know. So like longevity is a good indicator of being a really good player too, isn't it? Like they're not flashing at hands, they're not 1 year wonders. So like they would be boys that I would have a lot of respect for as players, and certainly a lot of admiration for in terms of how they've been able to stay at the top of their game for so long, and by the looks of them still have plenty more to give.
Brilliant. The last question I want to ask you before I do, if you're happy to have a go at the quick fire GAA round that I do. The last question, which is vitally important: have you ever won anything in the club lotto?
I haven't, and I don't. I'm going to be very honest with you here. I don't even think I do the club lotto. That's possibly why that I haven't won anything.
That's the height of honesty.
We have a couple of schemes going in the club, so don't be thinking for 1 second that I'm getting out of anything about contributing money towards the club, because we're all very, very well looked after in that regard.
That's so good. That's good. So to finish, I have a kind of quick fire round, because I'm going with the theme of the loaf of bread from Paddy O'Shea's famous speech in 2004 to us Westmeath lads.
I was actually sending it to a few of the players a while back when it started to rear its head again. But it's a very, very good video.
That's brilliant. I suppose it's known down here as the grain of rice speech, but there is already a podcast apparently called the grain of rice in America. So I said I'll go with the loaf of bread. So this quick fire round, I've got the very easy name of cutting the crusts off because you're a little shit who won't eat them for your mother. The name.
Right. Very good.
So first one is your favorite ground you've ever played on.
Favorite ground I've ever played on. Well, I'll not go for the home club one, but I would say Owen Begg and Derry, the Centre of Excellence, has been a very good ground for us as a club. So big open ground, great facilities, new stand, really good ground.
That setup there is phenomenal. I remember driving past at that time when driving around Derry. Yeah, it's incredible setup. What's the worst ground you've ever played on?
The worst
ground or least favorite stadium or ground you've ever played on?
Well, the worst. I gave a handout last year coaching Martin, which a few of my cousins play for him at my mother's home club, and I just told the boys half through the year that we're not training on this pitch anymore or playing any more games. We'll train the training pitch. So, and the scary thing is they didn't even laugh because they knew it was that bad. So Martin is probably the worst pitch I've played on. Okay. But in terms of the club, they're one of my favourites still.
Brilliant. Okay. Are you hand pass or drive it long?
Definitely hand passer.
Short kick out or long kick out?
Used to be short. Okay. Now I'm going for, if you can kick it 80 yards and find a goalkeeper that can do that.
Brilliant. Okay. As a supporter going to games, would you prefer the tea and ham sandwiches or the pre-match pub crack?
Definitely tea and ham sandwiches.
Yeah.
I'm just too irritable for the bar chat.
Good stuff. What's the best night you can remember after a game?
The best night. So I'm not a drinker. I don't drink at all.
Same as myself.
So I'm not really a partier, but I suppose one of the best nights still remains coming in the lane in 2014 after winning the county football title for the first time in 10 years, and many of the players' first one. That, along with 2016, one in the Ulster Club, two very kind of special nights where the club was just
brilliant,
full of people in the hall. You couldn't fit everybody in the hall. We were about to off ball. So like they were, I suppose, nights before the nights of partying. But like just the if you could bottle happiness and take a drink out of it now and again. To me, that would be a bottle of happiness,
That's a brilliant line, yeah. That's a great way to describe it, yeah. You have a choice of one here, the famous hats, flags, scarves, or headbands.
Which one?
Yeah.
Hats.
Everyone's gone for hats, yeah.
I'd be a hat wearer, so yeah.
Oh, good enough. Well. Yeah, most of the lads have said hats so far, and the women as well, because they just want to cover up the hair. So
very good, very good.
Would you be a Marty Morrissey or a Des Cahill man?
Neither filled me with unbelievable enthusiasm, but possibly Marty just gets the age.
Yeah, okay. Who's your favourite pundit on any sport, male or female, any show?
Right. Good question. Who do I like as a pundit? I watch a fair bit of sport. I wouldn't be a massive fan of any particular sport outside Gaelic games in general, but I suppose as a pundit, I don't mind Owen Hargreaves. I think he speaks a bit of sense. Maybe slightly boring for some people, but I think he's usually not too far away. To give another one, I think that Peter Canavan and Sky Sports is never too far off the money either.
Yeah.
So like if I was to give one from a soccer and one from a Gaelic, they'd probably be two ones that I think are certainly worth listening to, and they're probably their accolades as players probably back that up too.
Good, yeah. Owen Hargreaves is the first. Yeah, I've had everyone. I've had Denise Masterson. I've had Tomas O'Shea. I've had them all. Yeah, Owen Hargreaves. That's definitely a first anyway. What's the funniest thing that's ever been shouted at you from the sideline?
Jesus, from over the wire or from the management?
Oh, from anybody.
I don't really know. Funny. It's usually mostly insulting.
Yeah.
No, but we'll keep the colourful language to a minimum.
Eddie O'Sullivan on the Up to Our team, I'll tell you, his best one when he was fullback was told during a game just to get off, not been subbed, just told by the manager just walk off. So that's the kind of thing, yeah.
Yeah. Well, look, there's been quite a few, but to suppose to I can remember a couple of times being told in the summer months to get off the tanning beds, McKaigue, but I can 100% say that I'm not on the tanning bed. So, but that's definitely one. Yeah. I think that was one about then that I have been in tanning beds, but no, certainly not. I tick well enough to the sun in the summertime, but that's probably.
If there was a GAA transfer market tomorrow, who would you take in for a team of your choice? Your club or county or whoever?
Well, you'd have to be strategic about it, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So we're a field club, so I think a very safe, might break the bank, but a very safe one would be Con O'Callaghan. I think we'd take him up the road.
Okay, very good. Yeah, no, because the Uachtar lads who were on, just Kieran Hanley, their cornerback, just got abused for most of the podcast. So the three other lads just decided who was the best cornerback they could replace instead of him. So
okay, no, well, I'd be looking at it from a very ruthless point of view. How you could better team. So I think if Con was playing full forward in the hurling football teams, it'd be a nice acquisition, wouldn't it?
Good stuff. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and seeing him in the flesh, is pretty impressive as well. Who's the best hurl maker?
So there's a few good ones locally. Scullion Hurls and Lougheed.
Okay.
Lougheed won the All-Ireland 2012.
I have some of them coming on actually soon. Yeah.
Trying to come a turn. I've been using Duggan Hurls and Clare for a while too. Club would buy them the odd time too. Who would a third one be? A third one would be O'Brien's. Is it from Tipperary?
Yeah, I think it's O'Brien's. Yeah,
a pretty nice one. So they're probably the three hurley makers that I would use most often, and the club would use most often too. But there's so many people making hurls now; it's unbelievable. But people still know who makes the best ones, don't they?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, everyone has their own favourite. Yeah, are you studs or moles, man?
Studs.
100%.
100%.
this is an interesting one, and I had to rephrase this question for the Uachtar lads. So the question I asked them was, how many sweepers do you need to help Kieran Hanley? But are you a sweeper or no sweeper man?
I played sweeper for a
Yeah,
while,
that's
but
right.
I prefer to play probably not as a sweeper. I find that like you're almost taking out of the game too much. I would like to attack more and be more part of the game. Where super, you maybe feel more obligated to protect than to whatever else. But like, certainly the way the game's going now is you need to be strategic how you do it.
Yeah.
Probably if you can manage it, the best way to do it is to rotate the sweeper like Dublin do.
Yeah.
But again, like it takes serious organisation to do that. Like, but I suppose to answer your question directly, I would rather just play as a normal player and let somebody else do that.
Good stuff. Yeah. Your favorite pastimes outside of the GAA?
Favorite pastimes. Well, I suppose I'm usually, to be honest, if I could, man, I know it's probably an answer that you'll never get because people think you're like that I'm mad. But one thing I really love is coaching.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Did a lot of coaching at school and coached last year Dyson Martin, who were and the junior in Derry, and I just really enjoy it because in many ways it nearly gives me more energy, and you get to try your own ideas and like interact with players how you would see it. So I would love to go into coaching, but obviously time for me is an issue. And I suppose other pastimes would be general stuff, TV and maybe a bit of reading or whatever else. But I wouldn't be a massive socialite in general, anyway. And I'll keep a relatively low profile. But I love the job I do. Teaching over in Yale College. I love the school. It's an Irish speaking school, and like I don't have much spare time, but the spare time that I do have is usually directed towards some part of GAA. But like for me, it's not a chore. And it's something that I really enjoy doing.
Yeah, I know I can agree with that fully. Coaching the school team myself up in Dublin, there is a bit of enjoyment in it. Yeah, certainly you get out of it. And the last question I want to ask you then, in your own lifetime, who has been the best GAA player? You can go hurling or football or both. It's up to you.
I suppose, I think Derry's best ever player throughout the years has been Anthony Tohill, and I didn't get to see him play a whole lot. Probably seen him a bit when I was, younger going to Derry games. He was, like phenomenal. But probably one of the best and most special players that I've ever seen play the game, in my mind, has been someone like, just try and do this, man. Or try and do the person. I don't want to say somebody just for the sake of saying it, but
yeah,
in terms of being the full package, in terms of being unbelievably inspirational and hard-edged and all them different things put together, I still think I would have serious. I know he's from a rival county, but for me, I just don't think anybody tops Peter Canavan. When you watch clips of him on YouTube play for his club and how unbelievable he was. Like I only really started to see how good he was in the last number of years because I was watching him mostly when he was towards the end of his career. But like Jesus, when you were seeing some of the things that man was doing when he was in his prime at club level for Tyrone, like it was scary stuff. And like he didn't rely on any type of unbelievable physical attributes. Obviously, he was very quick and very agile, but like he was a small enough man, but like his ability, his mental fortitude, and his desire to compete in one was, unrivaled. And he's definitely one of the best players to ever play a game. Like definitely.
Yeah, and as you said, he was so good. I'd love if TV and everything just showed something else apart from that goal against Kerry where he just slots it in the corner, because there's so much more to it than that.
There's a clip on YouTube I came across a while back. It was highlights for Errigal.
Oh, okay.
And you should if it's still up there. Like really heavy weather and heavy conditions a lot of the time, and him getting a fair bit of abuse, and some of the things he was doing, like both feet, one dirty ball, springing up outside of his bad foot, just unreal stuff. And like people maybe don't know, Ergo Kieran are still the only Tyrone team to have won an Ulster Club Championship, and he's won 2 of them with them.
That's impressive, yeah.
So, like, if you look through his accolades individually and collectively, like, it's scary stuff. Like, there's nothing in the game that he hasn't achieved.
Yeah, he's phenomenal. And as I said, I would love if they just played another clip of him instead of just that goal against Kerry. I know it's.
Well, I took the other day when they came on against Galway, and was it Kieran Fitzgerald, young Kieran Fitzgerald, and Canavan got it in Hull 16 on the right hand side and went on his left foot and kicked a point. I don't know how he scored it, like, but
yeah.
He's just has Peter Canavan's highlight reel now, and he has 2 sons now coming through that are going to be special players. Yeah. So Errigal's a great club, and massively passionate Gaelic games too. But like, there's good stock up there.
Oh, there is, yes. Chrissy, look, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. Yeah. But thanks so much for taking the time, and best of luck with everything in the future. And hopefully we'll see you soon on the telly again. So
no problem.
Yeah, Slán, Chrissy. Coming up next week on the Loaf of Bread GAA podcast, we cut into our next slice. Next week on Slice 6 on the Loaf of Bread GAA podcast, I have the chats with 4 absolute champions and some of the greatest storytellers I've ever met.
We actually made great friends with Ray, the ref. I forget his second name, he's from Kildare. And Ray Kelly. So we made great friends with him that night. We ended up drinking in the bar with Ray Kelly that night and his wife. And then on the Sunday, Westmeath were playing Kilkenny. So this was on the Friday night, but I wasn't playing the match on the Sunday because I had my leave insert. But he had to ref the match on the Sunday, and I think he was still recovering on the Sunday on that pitch in Clonkill.
Westmeath stars Sheila McGrath, Caoimhe McCrossan, Captain Mairead McCormack, and one member of the iconic Greville family in the legendary Pamela. We chat about flower pots and nightclubs, the impact of Johnny Greville on the GAA, Mairead trying to jump the bench in Croke Park, forgetting where the team trip was, drinking with the ref before a game, and whether or not Pamela or Mairead is the worst dancer. Oh, and we also mentioned the incredible All-Ireland win too. See you then.